Just this week, 275,000 federal workers were fired.
President Trump today doubling down on his move to dramatically and rapidly shrink the federal workforce.
We want to downsize government, but make it better.
That's over 10% of the entire U.S. federal workforce, wiped out in the matter of a few days.
Trump administration's beginning mass layoffs of federal workers impacting multiple agencies.
Thousands of workers who handle everything from managing federal lands to caring for military veterans have been fired.
Many thousands of these workers were given just 30 minutes to pack up and get out.
You're fired.
You're fired.
You're fired. Get out of here.
What we're currently witnessing is the biggest government job purge in U.S. history. A whopping 75,000 federal workers took the buyout, which is basically a severance to resign early.
75,000 federal workers accepted President Trump's buyout program, offered more than 2 million federal workers to be paid through September 30th if they resigned by February 6th.
But the real shock, a whopping 200,000 were told to get out with no pay. No warnings, no protections, nothing. Normally, a government job is one of the safest jobs and safest positions that an American can have. But no longer is that the case. These weren't just random layoffs, these were federal employees. People working in critical government agencies. Veteran Affairs, Department of Education's entire divisions getting completely gutted. As that's going on, the White House just announced they are going to fire many thousands of IRS agents right in the middle of tax season.
IRS is preparing to fire potentially 15,000 workers in the middle of tax season.
15,000 employees at the IRS now identified for possible termination.
But the White House will not confirm the exact number of people losing their jobs across entire divisions of government. Meanwhile, government unions are already fighting back.
That's right. They are not going to cast us aside.
Federal workers rallied by the hundreds against President Trump's campaign to slash government programs,
calling it a political purge. But here's the question that no one is asking. Will these job losses even show up on the next unemployment report? Or will these numbers be quietly revised down again? Just like the 1.4 million jobs that quietly disappeared last year. And it's not just the government, the entire job market is collapsing right in front of us. And yet they're telling us it's stronger than ever. Let's take a real look at what's happening and why the numbers simply don't add up. The layoffs are piling up fast. Just in the last 5 days, many of America's biggest companies have issued massive layoffs. Everything from tech to automotive to even banking. Every industry is getting impacted right now. Chevron just announced they are slashing 20% of their global workforce, a whopping 8,000 jobs gone.
Chevron is laying off 15 to 20% of its workforce by the end of next year. That represents up to 8,000 people.
Chevron says the layoffs are needed to reduce costs and raise profits.
This comes after a disastrous year for oil markets, leading to cost cutting at record levels. Meta just laid off 3,600 employees.
Last month, Facebook's parent company said it planned to cut 5% of its workforce.
Meta Platforms is preparing to lay off approximately 3,600 employees.
But here's what's wild. Workers are blaming AI. They say Mark Zuckerberg is replacing real people with automation, while calling his employees low performers. Boeing is cutting hundreds of jobs, and not just any jobs. These layoffs are tied to NASA's Artemis program delays, which means even government-backed projects aren't safe from cuts. JP Morgan Chase just officially began job cuts for 2025, and this is just phase one. The bank is letting go of employees across multiple divisions, even as the company posts record profits. And this isn't just tech and banking. Right now, North Texas businesses are seeing a wave of job losses as small businesses struggle to keep up with inflation. You have rising cost and declining consumer demand. But that's not all. Retail is collapsing in front of us all across America. Many thousands of stores, both mid-size and large, are closing up shop. Walgreens, they're closing 1,200 locations nationwide.
Walgreens announced it is closing about 1,200 stores.
It's all part of eliminating stores that are underperforming.
This means thousands of pharmacy workers, store clerks, and managers will be out of a job inside of the next 90 days. Joann Fabrics, once a household name for DIY lovers, just announced they're shutting down 500 100 of their 800 stores all throughout America after filing for bankruptcy again.
Crafting retailer Joann Fabrics is closing 500 stores.
Fabrics is shutting down 500 stores across the country.
Party City, they just announced they are letting go of 18,000 workers and shutting down locations all across America.
The largest party supply store in the United States plans to close all of its stores.
You have Big Lots, one of the largest discount retailers in America, will be closing at least 150 locations from now until April 7th of this year.
All Big Lots stores will hold going out of business sales as the company prepares to close permanently.
Big Lots is closing all of its stores nationwide,
with even more closures expected. JCPenney, already struggling for years, is shutting down even more stores in 2025.
JCPenney, the retailer, plans to close several stores this summer,
marking another major blow to brick and mortar retail. This is not just about store closings. We all know about this. It's about jobs disappearing entirely from our economy. But here's where it gets really sketchy. The job numbers, we are told, are not real. If layoffs are exploding and stores are closing all across the country, how is unemployment going down? And why does the government keep telling us the job market and the economy is strong? Here's the truth they do not want you to focus on. In March of 2024, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics proudly announced the U.S. added a whopping 598,000 jobs. But months later, the media stopped covering it. That number was erased and 598,000 jobs never existed. Think about how big of a number that is. Nearly 600,000 jobs added and then subtracted quietly. Then in August of 2024, 818,000 jobs were completely erased from the BLS's job report. This is the biggest correction since the great financial crisis of 2009. For many of us, the biggest recession of our entire lifetime. Yet, we're told everything is great. Think about that. Combined, it's a whopping 1.4 million fake jobs. Reported first and then erased when no one was looking. Now the January 2025 job report claims we added 143,000 jobs.
January data, 143,000. 143,000 is our gain in non-farm payrolls.
But let me ask you, do we actually believe that number? Or will we see another job revision a month, 2 months, 3 months later when everyone is distracted by the next major story? If that wasn't enough, things are about to get way worse. Trump just announced a wave of new tariffs.
President Trump says he's going to announce so-called reciprocal tariffs on every country with duties placed on the U.S.
President Donald Trump and tariffs, that he will implement these reciprocal tariffs,
forcing companies to manufacture inside of America, bringing back jobs and making America great again. Millions of Americans would say that this sounds awesome and we need to do this and bring back manufacturing and make America what it once was. But here's the problem. America's labor costs are already at record highs.
Wages and salaries increased 4.4%.
First time since early 2021, the U.S. Labor Department says wages are rising at a faster rate than inflation.
The UAW strike forced Ford, GM, and Boeing to increase wages a whopping 168%.
The United Auto Workers Union on Saturday reached a tentative labor deal with Chrysler owner Stellantis, moving closer to securing record wage hikes.
Boeing machinists secured a 38% wage increase.
The new offer includes a 38% general wage increase over 4 years.
Higher cost, higher tariffs equals inflation and further job cuts all across America. If companies can't afford to manufacture in America, here are their only two options. Raise prices for me and you, or fire endless employees to automate to drive down pricing to where we can afford to purchase the products that they sell. So the big question, what will happen next? Will companies keep faking job numbers while secretly and quietly cutting thousands and thousands of workers? Will small business collapse while big corporations take over market share, automate as much of their business as possible, and dominate? And if the job market is so strong, why are job report numbers quietly revised every single time? And over the last several years, it's been a consistent pattern. Everything is great, then a month, 2 months, 3 months later, it's quietly revised, And they told the consumer strong, inflation's low, everything is amazing. This is the best U.S. economy and job market we've ever seen. But then all the numbers quietly change and quietly change and quietly change. Why would that have to happen if things were really booming? Here's what I think is likely going to unfold. I believe we are walking into a massive, massive change, a structural change inside of America, one to the likes of which we have never before seen. Inside of this change will bring endless opportunities, and it will shift trillions of dollars of wealth all around the country from one pocket to another. Start to just look at this big picture. When you have millions and millions of jobs that are in question right now, what will likely happen? I believe some of these jobs will be automated, ones that can be, will be. These big corporations will continue to trim the fat, and they will continue to invest in their operations, their shipping, their distribution, their infrastructure, in AI. I mean, look at all the big tech companies. They're spending over $200 billion this year just in AI and robotics alone. You think about how big of a number that is. When you have JP Morgan Chase saying that they're going to offer employees their own AI assistant, is this for their employees' benefit, or is this for really the benefit of JP Morgan Chase? I would argue for the benefit of JP Morgan Chase. They want to streamline their operations. Big government looking to let go of 275,000 workers, many thousands of IRS agents. Why? Well, because AI can streamline this entire process and drive down costs even further. This is what we're walking into, a major shift all across our economy. And I believe this is going to have a really big impact on banking. When you just look at retail, when you look at office buildings, when you have all these major companies that are firing thousands and thousands of workers, do they really need 20 or 30 or 40 or 50,000 square feet of retail space when most consumers are spending money online? No. The answer is no. And so they're going to continue to downsize their footprint more and more and more in the coming year or so. And so as they begin to do that, think about the banks that are on the hook for these loans. Now, the investor may have purchased this property in maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and they might have refinanced like everyone did in 2021, 2022, record low interest rates, thinking things are booming, we're going to go back to normal, and they borrowed millions of dollars in debt at 3 or 4%. Now they have to refinance this debt this year, next year, the following year at 7.5 or 8%. They're not going to be able to get that loan. Many of these banks are going to foreclose on these properties. And so you just start to look at the ripple effect across multifamily real estate, housing. I mean, you look at Washington, D.C., what's unfolding right now inside the housing market just there. You start to ask yourself, all these tech workers and all these workers that were working remote that moved out of L.A. and New York City and, all these San Francisco, all these really expensive cities, and they went to Florida, they went to Austin, they went to Nashville, and they bought these second homes. What's going to happen to these markets? Could we see a surge in inventory because of these layoffs continuing to progress? I believe we likely will see some real estate markets get greatly impacted by what's going to likely unfold this year. And I think there's going to be a lot of money flowing around, and I think we're going to see a lot of change unfolding throughout the job market and the real estate market. And inside of change is when massive, massive opportunity is found. I believe this is the greatest wealth transfer in American history that we're living through. And it's up to all of us to prepare and plan for this and to seize this moment. What do you think about this entire situation? Let's have a conversation about this below. And if you're interested in fixing your credit to position yourself for financing to invest in distressed real estate, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any negative or derogatory items in your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. And what I'm personally doing is I'm investing in affordable housing. I believe affordability is going to be the big key driver to real estate this year, next year, really into the future. Everything's going to come down to affordability. The cost of living is likely going to continue to increase, and people are going to continue to downsize with what's unfolding with insurance and taxes and the job market. And so I'm investing heavily in Ohio real estate. I believe Section 8 and this entry-level housing is going to be a safer place to be than almost every other sector of real estate. If you'd like to learn more about what I'm doing and you have $100,000 or more that you're thinking about investing, you can go to singlefamilyinvestors.com. That's singlefamilyinvestors.com by clicking the link in the description just below this video. Catch you next video.